Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Last week, President Ahmadinejad came to New York and the UN. And would you believe it, he said something that made people protest. Yes, he said that 9/11 was an inside job. What do you expect? He's a crazy man. Why do we listen? Well, here's a guy that wants to wipe Israel off the map. He's denied the Holocaust and called America the Great Satan. I don't know, every time we don't listen to people like this, it seems it leads to something like the Holocaust. Here's an interesting thing that I haven't really seen coverage on today, and that is who President Ahmadinejad met with besides the UN while here in New York. Who? Louis Farrakhan and the Black Panthers. The same Panthers who the Obama Justice Department inexplicably backed off and dropped the voter intimidation case against them. America, ask yourself, does it fit with the storyline that we've been laying out for you? That the enemy of our enemy is not our friend at all. They are our enemy. And somebody is cobbling together an awful lot of power in a way really only the Weather Underground laid out in the 1970s. Come on, let's go. Hello, America. All right, let's start with the latest. It's in a long line of insults hurled at the Tea Party movement, but this one came from Senator John Kerry, who actually said this with a straight face.
We have an electorate that doesn't always pay that much attention to what's going on. So, you know, people are influenced by a simple slogan rather than by the facts and the truth or what's happening.
Boy, I've taken everything in me not to say a simple slogan like hope and change. Tell me if this isn't true. The American people, at least in my lifetime, have never been so connected to their own history. I have never, in the history of, in my lifetime, I have never seen people show more that they care about the actual process of what's happening. We're making sausage in Washington, and they care, and they're paying attention. For the first time in my lifetime, the people of this country know that the founders are counting on them. They know, absolute firm reliance on the knowledge that when the three branches failed, the media was supposed to stop it. And once the media failed, the only thing standing between fascism or chaos and the American people are the American people. And for the first time in my life, I can tell you that I'm amazed by the American people as a whole. I mean, we've always been incredible people, but what we're doing now is this, and I haven't seen it in my life. We're being responsible. We should have been there the whole time, but me included, we weren't. I mean, we were kind of skating. We thought this ride would never end. This is a reason to celebrate, not denigrate the American people. For evidence, have you checked out the best-selling books that have just at least come from this show? I mean, we have, these are just some of the books. Road to Serfdom. Have you read this? It'll make your eyes bleed. Road to Serfdom came out in 1944. So you know, it sells about 7,000 books annually. After one episode on this program, this book sold 70,000 copies in a week. This audience is devouring books like never before. And they're books like, oh, here's one. You should read this one. This one actually explained to me, this is what really got the ball rolling for me, one of them. This is Woodrow Wilson and the Roots of Modern Liberalism. It has footnotes, riddled with footnotes. We have said the 5,000-year leap. Here's one. This is Peter Lilback's book. This is an incredible, I've told you, every person in America should own this book. It's Sacred Fire. When I found this book, it had been out for 5-6 years. It didn't say the #1 national bestseller on it. People are devouring it. New Deal, Raw Deal is another one. The Real George Washington, unbelievable. Tempest at Dawn, even. How about this one? Philip Drew, Administrator, A Story of Tomorrow. Have you read this book? I wanted to hang myself through this book. Every American should read this book. It's what we're doing. And it was written in like 1912. Are you kidding me? Don't tell me that the American people are stupid. Don't tell me that the American people, some of those books are scholars' books. They weren't ever meant to be consumed by the American people. These are gigantic, small font, boring beyond your wildest imagination, yet highly informative books. Now, I'm just guessing, but I don't think people are just reading these at the beach going, this is a page-turner. It's about Woodrow Wilson. The American people know that something was wrong, and they were trying to figure out, how did we get here? And they're informing themselves. They're trying to get to the truth of what's happening. They're being responsible. And America, here is the truth. The truth is, there is a fundamental difference in America right now. We've talked about this choice. I started to write America needs to choose, but America must choose between these two. This is the choice. And it is growing more and more defined every week. Do we believe in a government that is constitutional, limited federal power, has a low flat tax, whatever kind of tax, lower taxes, limited federal spending, personal responsibility, and a government that helps those who cannot help themselves, not helps those who will not help themselves? Do we believe in this? Or choice two is a big progressive government. And this is the choice that we keep going through. Republican, Democrat, big progressive. The Republicans, they'll be telling you what to do in your bedroom. The Democrats will be telling you what you're going to do in every room. I don't want them in my bedroom. I don't want them in my living room. I don't want them in any room. I feel like Cat in a Hat here. I don't want them to have this much power. Why? Because our founders knew this. The founders knew people are flawed. They're flawed. And power corrupts. Now, Cass Sunstein, he's the latest. I think he fancies himself as a refounder of the United States of America. I've told you on this program, he's the most dangerous man in America because no one will see him coming. He's Obama's progressive regulation czar. We found an old clip. It was put up on theblaze.com. Here he is, pretty much spelling out everything this show has told you in the past. Watch.
Some conservative legal thinkers, like Justice Scalia and Justice Thomas, think that the Constitution means what it originally meant. That means we should understand the document by going into a kind of time machine and capturing the public understanding of the public that ratified the document a century or more than a century ago.
Okay. He's saying that it has no relevance. The Constitution has no relevance because you have to go into a time machine. This is all you need to understand. The founders knew. Limit the size of the government through the Constitution because people are flawed and power corrupts. Thus, don't give people power over you because they will become corrupt as they are people. Thus, they are flawed. Progressives don't think the Constitution applies to today. That's why they're called progressives, to make progress. Towards what? Away from what? The Constitution. The Constitution evolves over time, and it changes as society changes. Yes, it does, but through the Constitution called amendments. We used to amend it all the time. The rest of Americans believe the Constitution still works. Now, that's the debate that it's coming down to, but that's the debate nobody's having. The debate comes down to this. Do you believe in the American experiment, the American ideals? Do you believe in this? People are flawed, power corrupts. Don't give people power over you because they will become corrupt as they are people and they are flawed. If you believe in this, you must choose this. Progressives don't hold the Constitution in high esteem, and that's bad enough. But when coupled with what progressives think about the American people, that's when things start to get dicey. You just saw Cass Sunstein dismiss the Constitution, but let me play again what he says about you.
Once we know that people are human and have some Homer Simpson in them, then there's a lot that can be done to manipulate them.
To manipulate them. You're the hapless Homer Simpson who lacks self-control, so you will be manipulated. And progressives like Sunstein, the solution to this problem is the manipulation and control by the federal government. I don't want to be manipulated. I want individual freedom, liberty. I want personal responsibility. Hold me accountable for my own actions. If I make a bad move in business, then I make a bad move in business. I should be allowed to fail. I don't want the big George Bush government or the big Obama government. I don't want any government that is telling me exactly what to do all the time. I want a government that holds up merit and personal responsibility, has very little on control, but also a government that is compassionate for those who cannot do it themselves. And when the private sector can't help them either. The people in Washington have already decided what kind of government they're going to give you. Do you know that 80% of the ruling class in Washington say that this is it? 80% say they are now on the right track. Except 60% of Americans say they're on the wrong track. That's a pretty big spread. Why? Because they're corrupt and they have power. Now let me show you what they're doing in Washington. These are just things that just broke over the weekend. Let me show you what they're doing, and you tell me, is this the choice you would make? In California and 8 other western states, the government can now actually place a GPS device on your car and track you. Because according to a court, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy even in your own driveway. They, by the way, don't need a search warrant. The FBI and other police agencies will now no longer need a search warrant to track your location. They'll use your cell phone. Nobody's going to a judge. They just, where's Bob Jones? This happened after a federal appeals court in Philadelphia ruled. Once again, the Obama administration argued Americans have no reasonable expectation of privacy when it comes to where people place and receive cell phone calls. Now here's the latest from the New York Times. The government is now seeking a new federal law forcing internet, email, instant messaging, and other communication providers to offer encryption to build in backdoors for law enforcement surveillance. Okay, wait a minute. This also will not have to be used with a search warrant. They don't have to go to a judge. Now, if I may, I remember the left complaining about warrantless wiretaps on phones when we were talking about terrorists. I was with you on that. You don't tap the phones of American citizens without going to a judge and getting a warrant. You don't do it. Now here we have warrantless car tapping, warrantless cell phone tapping, warrantless internet tapping, and there's silence. Silence from the left, silence from the media, silence from the American people. Is John Kerry right? Is it because we don't have a simple slogan for it? Here's one of the most disturbing stories. Because we're being stoned